appropriate.
Well, here we are at the in the library of the Gaelic American Club. It's August the 5th, 2005. I'm Noel McGovern, and we're going to start off with the very hard questions, and then we go to the easy ones. So the hard one is, tell us your name
I'm good
and
at
why
that.
it was chosen.
I'm good at the hard ones.
Okay.
Name was Andy O'Leary, Andrew O'Leary, but Andy O'Leary. A long line of Andy O'Learys. My grandfather from Kerry was Andy O'Leary. My father's Paddy O'Leary. He moved from Kerry to Offaly in the mid to late 30s. He was a well digger, and he met my mother there, hit up a relationship, they got married. But I have like 15,000 cousins whose name are Andy.
And they're all in Kerry.
Most of them are in Kerry, thank God.
Okay. What part of, when you moved to Offaly, what part of Offaly?
It's a little place called Lusma. It's right on the Shannon, and it's about 2 miles from the town of Banagher. Lusma is, like I said, on the Shannon, and if you go across the Shannon, there's County Galway. And then also where Galway meets Offaly, Tipperary meets also. So I was born where 3 counties meet, and I was also born where 3 provinces meet.
Oh, okay.
Munster, Connacht, and of course the best, Leinster.
Leinster.
You know, and best county too,
Yeah.
Offaly, of course.
Good.
So Lusma, yeah, Lusma means good herb. It was famous for its herbs back in, I don't know, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th century. But that's Lusma, small parish.
So you were born there, and were you born in the hospital there, or were you born at home?
Oh, God, no. What's a hospital? No. I think I was born Christmas Day. You know where I was born?
Yeah. I've got a great
I wasn't born in a stable in Bethlehem, but I was born in a house in Lusma. Christmas Day, 1941. Yeah, my mother's joy, of course.
Now, where did you come in the family?
I am the third. I'm the first boy. I'm the third. I have 2 older sisters, Mary, and my other sister, Nora, who you know, was up in Bethel. Then there's a bunch of us after that. There's about, there's 9 of us all told.
Wow, could we just...
You're putting me on a spot here. Mary.
Okay, let's go through the group.
Right, we'll start with Mary, the oldest. Then there's Noni, who lives in Bethel. Mary lives in Kerry right now. Did live in Chicago for a number of years. Now she lives in Castellana and Kerry. After me, there's Sheila, who now lives in Scotland. Sheila spent some like 15 years in the Sisterhood of the Nuns.
Oh, okay.
Got disenchanted and left. Now is married in Scotland. And there's Eileen, who lives in Missouri. And then there's Phil, Chicago. Mike, who's in Chicago. Am I missing anybody yet? Monica? Well, she's in Roscommon now.
Oh, Roscommon.
Moved across the Shannon to the big time. She's in Roscommon.
Monica, right?
Yeah, she's in. And Patrick, who lives at home in the home farm.
Okay. Who's living at home now? Just Patrick?
Patrick lives in let's say a newly built, our newly built being about 15 years old house, about 150 yards down from where the old house are. However, that's not the house where I was built, where I was born. Right. In 1959, 1960, we moved from Lusma up to a place called Thomastown, Rath. Land Commission gave us a farm. They took our old farm. It's about 12 miles away from Lusma. So Patrick now has that farm. And my father is retired, and currently he is in a nursing home in the town of Burr. And I'll be going to see him in October.
Correct.
Yeah.
So your dad actually was born in Kerry.
He was a Kerry man.
And came up to Offaly. Okay. Now your mother was an Offaly.
She was a Lusma woman.
Okay.
Her maiden name was Mara. Not old Mara, but Mara. And there are a lot of Maras in Lusma. I think they were originally from like North Tipperary. There's a lot of Maras in North Tip, in that part of Offaly. She was the only child. Yes. And her father, who I knew for until 1955 when he passed away, 1956 maybe, lived in the house where I was born. And if there was one thing Mick Mara had, it was didn't have was personality. He was, oh, he was tough.
Yeah.
Oh, God almighty. I don't think I ever saw a man smile.
Did he? Did you remember your grandmother, his wife?
No, his wife died, actually, I think before my mother got married,
Oh.
way back.
Now, what about your grandparents on your father's side? Did you ever meet them?
Well, you talk about the opposite. My grandfather, Andy O'Leary,
Right.
he's always smiling.
Yeah.
He was a big man, but he just never stopped smiling. Everything was happy, happy, happy. His to tell you a little story. He was entrusted with hiding the rifles when the black and tans were coming to the neighborhood. The boys told him, "Get rid of the rifles, hide them, and bury them somewhere." So Andy O'Leary buried the rifles up in the bog, and when I went back to retrieve them a week later, he couldn't remember where he buried them. They haven't found the rifles yet. No, they're well preserved. They're in the bog.
They're not rotten. That's
No, they're not. Might be a little rusty.
Yeah. Oh my God. So but he lived in.
He lived in a place called Brahig, outside the town of Castle Island. Brahig means fine house.
Okay. Yeah.
House now it's still there, but nobody lives there. Nobody lives there.
But now his wife.
His wife was Nora, and again there are like 15,000 Noras, as you know, in
Yeah, right.
cousins all over. Noras or Nonis. She was Lyne, Lyne, and she came from close to Scarta Glen, which is on the Cork-Kerry border. And she was a tough little cookie. Had to be if he was always happy. Somebody had to take care of business, you know.
Well then, Paddy, your father, he must have taken after your grandfather because he was fairly happy.
Well, he was fairly happy, but he also had his mother's temper,
Oh, yeah.
which backs of my legs will attest to.
What was the kind of the home setting like? Were you in a town in the country? You know, well, you were on a farm actually.
I was in a small farm, like I said, in the parish of Lusma. Poor as they come, so was everybody else. We had a small thatched house, which is no longer there. It's been knocked down a long time ago. And in that house, where there were 9 kids, were actually, well, no, there weren't. There were 8 kids. One of them was born when we moved up to Rath. There were 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms, which included the kitchen. So it was like, and there weren't bunk beds either, no. They were up and down, 2 up, 2 down. I slept in the same bedroom as my grandfather, the very happy Mick Mara, slept in with my 3 sisters, 2 up and 2 down, and
A hot fire.
it was a hearth fire, you know, crane.
Yeah, crane.
Cooked everything from over the crane.
Yeah.
We had a parlor, which was always a bedroom, except when the stations of the cross came around, you had to convert it very quickly into a very nice-looking parlor. There was more whitewashing done when the stations were done than any time.
Just while I got you there, just talk a little bit about the stations, about what that entailed when you were growing up at your house.
I'm not sure of the how often it happened. I think probably every 4 years, where the priest, and I'll tell you about the priest in a minute, would go to each house in the parish once every 4 years and have mass say there, and then the neighbors would come and join in the celebration. But it was just a mass, and the Scrimpton got every little penny they had to try and make it look good. I mean, but my memory of I think it was the only station I can recall at the house, and I had just gotten my first communion not too long before that. And you know, you're supposed to fast back then from midnight or whatever.
Yeah, midnight.
Midnight, because there's going to be communion at the station.
Right.
And of course, me being what I am and being quite hungry, ventured into the parlor. And there in the parlor there was nothing to eat except a bowl of sugar. I ate a bowl of sugar. Well, most of it anyway.
Yeah.
And it sure didn't my mother catch me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That was the end of the communion.
How am I going to have communion if I had eaten? So I guess she conferred with the priest, and the priest said it was all right. So I got my communion, but I also got a few slaps in the backside later on.
It was something sweet.
There was tea and sandwiches, and it wasn't that much. It was maybe some porter, but beyond that, it was just. And it didn't last. It lasted, I would say, a couple, 2 to 3 hours. That was about it. Then back to work.
Was there any collecting of dues or anything like that? Those
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Not that I can't even recall that. No,
Yeah.
there was enough dues collected at the
Regular.
when your name was read from the altar. You know.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
On a daily basis at your house when you're growing up, like what would a normal day be like? You know, just
When I wasn't going to school,
yeah.
we worked. The sisters worked. I worked. As soon as you hit 4 or 5, you were out there attempting to do something out in the field. You either, if they sowed turnips or mangels or any kind of a root crop, you're out there weeding them and hoeing them and, making yourself useful.
Yeah.
That went on most of the summer because what we had was mixed farming. It was all, like I said, potatoes, turnips, beet, some sugar beet, which I wouldn't wish on anybody. They're my worst enemy. And we were busy all the time.
Did you have
Or digging the turf.
milking cows? Or?
We had milking cows, not that many back then. We had maybe 4 or 5, enough for our own. There was no creamery.
Right.
No creamery involved. Sell the calves, but mixed farming was a pain because you had to work all the time.
Look, I'm thinking you did grow a lot of your own vegetables and so. What was your favorite foods? Was any food favorite?
In my young years, not too many. Well, there was spuds.
Yeah.
And then there was spuds.
More spuds.
And then there was spuds. And they were mostly boiled and plenty of homemade butter. Very little beyond that. You had an onion once in a while. We had meat maybe tops twice a week. And when you could afford it, you went to town and buy some. My mother would go into town and buy some strange-looking fish, hanging from the ceiling. I don't know, some kind of whiting or something. I don't know what it was.
Whiting, yeah.
Oh, kippers were great. Kippers, you'd be drinking water for a week after you had feeding kippers.
Did you ever was there anything like killing a pig or anything?
Well, more so, my memories of killing pigs was more so in Kerry, because my Uncle Johnny was the pig killer.
Right.
And it wasn't a good sight.
Yeah.
This poor pig.
He was a loser.
She was usually a she.
Yeah.
Fine and young and dandy, succulent. So you get this poor pig. About 4 or 5 of the neighbors be over. Corner her, put a rope around her snout, drag her up and put her. This is outside, backyard. Put her up on top of the table, upside down, and a guy hanging onto each leg, and my uncle would commence to do the job. Now the job was not like stab and go away. It was a slow process, so you catch all the blood to make that delicious black pudding that we all love. So when that thing was over, the first thing they would do was scalding water and scald the pig. We're dead now, okay?
Yeah, right. Pig's dead.
I wouldn't wish any pain on any pig. So this poor dead pig was now scalded. That was so they could shave all the hair off.
Right.
And then they would cut her up into different parts, bacon, pork, whatever, tongue. And the blood was taken by the women, and they made the blood pudding out of it. Don't ask me how they did it, because I don't have a clue. I do know that they washed the guts in the river, and that was the casing, I believe, for the black pudding. Yeah. Best thing I remember about a poor dead pig is that we got the bladder.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we blew it up and let it dry and made a football out of it. We couldn't afford a football.
And there was also a big, I remember, a square, or at least, or I remember, was a salt. That came, the salt.
Oh, the salt, yeah. The salt,
Rock salt of some sort.
well, however it was for curing the bacon. You'd rub all the salt into it. Then, many of these houses had built-in let's say, for want of a better name, a trough. And it was about maybe 2.5 to 3 feet high, little square, and that's where all the meat would go, salted,
down.
and it would stay for a long, long well. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Some of it would hang up in the ceiling,
And then hang it.
the size of bacon, make rashers out of it later on. Good too.
But it was good food, of course. It did. Has any cures? Any local cures that you knew when you were growing up? Like
No, not
anybody in the family or anything?
no. The only cure I remember is when there was an epidemic in my family. It came from the cattle. When we were little kids, we got ringworm. And I remember my sister losing her hair, and I got it.
Yeah.
And they went all over the place looking for cures. I went to doctors. It was something with like barley and tar or something. Never worked. So they plunked me into a car one night, and next door neighbor was the only guy who had a car in the parish, Ned Donohunt. And it took us off to some little town in Galway, across the bridge. And I just stayed in the car, and they came back. My father came back about 10 minutes later with this little bottle, white cream. And this quack gave him this bottle of white cream. So I haven't gone through the tar stuff. I said, this thing is going to burn the hell out of me, you know. So he took me home and gave me the stuff, rubbed it on, and the stuff was gone in 2 days. Yeah. That's the only cure. Lusma, the herbs, was famous for his herbs and curing herbs. I have no information on it. No information on it.
And it's still to this day.
There's no seven sons of seven sons in Lusma.
No.
Not like up in your part of the country.
We haven't won. But it's still as a matter of a conversation, it's still one disease that doctors still can't cure.
The ringworm?
The ringworm.
Really?
They're still dependent on the old cures are better than anything they've got.
Yeah. Once it gets into you, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Stop it before it gets to you.
Talk about school, when you started going to school, where you went, and then let's go through that.
Well, yeah, obviously I went through a lot of schooling. Well, yeah, you started school over there when you were 4. And for some reason I started down in Kerry.
Really?
Yeah, maybe there was a child on the way that would make room in the for the next to come on. So I went for about 6 months, I remember, to school in Kerry when I was about 4 to 5 years of age. A place called Kilmurray, which is outside the town of Castle Island. I don't remember much about it, so long ago. But then I went back to Offaly, and I went to school in Lusma. There was 2 teachers in the school, Mr. Flynn and Mrs. Byrne. Now, Mr. Flynn was a nice man, give you a slap when you deserved it. Mrs. Flynn or Mrs. Byrne would give you a slap even when you didn't deserve it, you know. She was a rip. The priest pretty much controlled that little. His house was just up the road, and when he would come, everybody would shiver and shake and everything. But I went there until 4th class, 4th grade out here, I guess. Father Fahy, I remember him coming down once, and he'd take a workforce out from the 4th or 3rd or 5th or whoever, any of the boys he could grab to put up fences for him or whatever, and he would have us out dig his garden for him, anything like that. I'll get into Father Fahy later. And then I left there. I went to town of Burr, because Lusma wasn't good enough for me. You know, I had to go to Burr, get beaten up by the Christian brothers.
Oh, yeah.
So I spent 5th class and 6th class in Burr. Brother Thaddeus and the infamous brother Robert, a Cork man who almost killed his own nephew there because God, it was terrible. But I survived that, and then I went to school in Kerry for secondary school. Okay. Castle Island.
Castle Island.
Castle Island, yeah.
Now, the school back home in Offaly, that was a parochial school.
That was a small school. It was like 1 room, 2 rooms basically.
Right.
And a 3rd room that was used as like a library and a dance hall. Wow. Oh yeah, we were the only parish or anything I know in Ireland that used to have dances, 1 dance a year, Christmas night. Oh yeah, brilliant. Brilliant.
But the priest that was his domain. That.
Well, the priest owned all the property there.
Yeah.
Father Fahy. Father Fahy was like God,
Oh, yeah.
and everybody in the parish was scared to hell of him. You know, he would ride around on a horse.
Really?
Yeah. And the horse's name was Simon. And once you heard, "Oops, Simon,"
Yeah.
you start shivering. He's close by. He would ride around the parish on his horse Simon, and he was wearing a beret. Not the horse, though, the priest, right? I think it was a red beret. He'd be jumping ditches. Right. And when he'd come out on the road, if you were on the road on a bicycle, or you as a child, or you as an adult, you got off that bicycle, or you were driving a car, which very few of us were doing. You stopped and you got out and you saluted this priest.
The general.
Oh, the general. They used to come from miles around to listen to his sermons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, communism was his big hatred. I don't know why.
He was down on.
It would have worked in Lusper, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, he
Right.
was nuts.
Where was he from? Do you remember?
He was from part of Galway.
Oh,
From someone Galway. Actually, after 1961 or 62, they banished him back to Galway. There was a big to-do in the parish of Lusmer where I left. There was a lot of agitation over who got what land that we left behind, some other people had left behind. And he didn't particularly care for it, and he formed a party called Lea Fall. And they were running cattle into the rivers. Ran cattle into the Shannon River, drowned them. And the guards came out and arrested, I don't know, about 4 of them, I think. They were all young
Yeah.
teenagers doing his
Work.
bidding, you know. So they arrested him, and within the week, Lusma locals went into town and broke them out of jail.
Oh.
Beat up the guards. Now these guys were on the run for about a month, and some were living in the